Well, hey everyone. Thank you for joining me for tonight's webinar, Why Diets Work and Why They Don't. So, when people come to us here at the Body Smith, they typically have one of three goals in mind. Of all the goals out there, they usually fall under one of three topics. Usually, they want to look better. They want to be leaner, or they want to be more muscular. They want to feel better. Maybe it's have more energy, or deal a little bit with some aches and pains they've been having, or they want to perform better. Maybe they're golfers. Maybe they like to play pickleball or hike, or just they want to feel better performing in everyday life. So to do all that, all those goals, the most important factor to get there is going to be nutrition. It's the most important thing that will help us get to those goals. Now, today in this webinar, my purpose is going to be, I'm going to inform you a little bit. I'm going to tell you what works. I'm going to tell you what doesn't work. And then I'm also going to give you tools that are going to help you get results. So let's get started in totality here. The agenda for today, I'm going to explain why diets don't work. Okay, I'm going to give you the one secret to why all diets can work and will work. I'm going to also discuss the biggest mistakes that I would call them serial dieters or yo-yo dieters make. And these mistakes really hold them back over the course of their lifetimes. I'm going to also share with you what the most successful people do for long-term results. And then if we have some time left at the end here, I'll take some questions. So which diet is best? Now, if you've been around in the world, you more than likely have either yourself tried one of these diets, or people for sure that have. And these are things like, keto obviously has been pretty big lately. Paleo, which is just, another sort of version of keto. The whole South Beach thing came and went. The zone diet. Slow carb is another one. In the 80s, we were very low fat with everything. Then there's high fat diets. There's even high carb diets out there. And then, vegetarianism has also been kind of on the rise in popularity lately. So the truth is, in my nearly 20 years in this business, I have seen people be successful in achieving their goals with virtually all of these diets. I've seen it, And so why can they all work? Well, they all work because they have one thing in common. But before we get there, I want to caution you. I really like to caution people from actually using the whole diet word in general. I used to say all the time that diet is a four-letter word. Well, it is obviously a four-letter word. But what I mean by it can be, my ears kind of just burn when I hear someone say they're going on a diet. Because if you go on a diet, you're going to go off that diet. Because in truth, what we really need is a change in your lifestyle, your daily habits, the things you just do naturally, okay? Because, as I said, all diets, if they work, they really just have one thing in common. So before we get to that, let's talk about why they don't work. And maybe some of this, you've experienced it yourself. Most diets, they're probably too restrictive, right? When you eliminate a whole food group, that's a pretty restrictive measure to put on yourself, because then it usually makes it what? No fun. We're not going to eat any carbs. Well, good grief. I mean, we all know that some very delicious foods contain carbohydrates, not to mention that a vegetable is carbohydrate for the most part. So these non-fun, these too restrictive diets, they're just not sustainable. And the big thing why a diet doesn't work, or why we get that cycle, we could call them that cycle of going on a diet, losing weight, then going off a diet, gaining even more weight, is because we do damage to our metabolism. We actually do metabolic destruction. The whole yo-yo dieting syndrome that I just described. Lose weight, gain weight, even more. Lose weight again, gain even more weight. And we're going to talk a little bit about why that is a little bit later. So let's get down to the meat of why any of these diets can work. Diets work The common denominator, and this may not be a big surprise to you at all, but all diets work because they control what's known as energy balance. Energy balance is simply the relationship between the energy we take in the form of calories and the energy that is consumed or burned by the body. Okay, so if we look at this graph, I love this illustration here, this scale. So on the left, you've got energy intake. We intake all these calories through what? Food you eat, anything you drink that has calories, right? Well, we consume energy, we burn calories, in other words, in three ways. Your body does this in three ways. The first one is called your basal metabolic rate. This is essentially the amount of energy, calories again, remember, when we say energy, we're referring to calories, the amount of calories your body requires or burns at rest, at total rest. That is your basal metabolic rate. That's number one. The second way your body consumes energy, calories, is through what's called the thermic effect of food. Now, the thermic effect of food, this is merely the amount of energy required to eat a food, to digest the food, to metabolize the food. The whole chewing thing, the whole digestion, everything that happens, peristalsis, all the secretion of bile and all these things in your body, that requires energy. And that is a big form of energy burning that we really don't ever think about. People don't think about that. And then the third way that we consume energy is through physical activity. So this energy balance thing, to lose weight, we simply need to what? We need to live in what's known as a negative energy balance. We're essentially what? Burning more energy than we're taking in. If our goal was to gain weight, let's say we want to gain muscle, well, we got to do the opposite. We got to be in what's known as a positive energy balance. We're consuming more calories than we're burning. This is the first law of thermodynamics. This is why all diets work. All of those methods can work, okay? Now, so let's say we want to lose weight. Let's say that's our main goal. How are we going to do that? How are we going to achieve a negative energy balance? Well, there's a whole lot of ways we can do that, okay? Now let's look at it. We can restrict or completely eliminate one of the macronutrients. Now the macronutrients, if you don't know, there's three of them: protein, carbohydrates, and fat. So when you knock one of those off, remember in the 80s, it was all low fat. We don't eat any fat. Well, if you restrict, eliminate pretty much all fat, that's immediately going to put you in a caloric deficit. You're going to so greatly reduce the amount of calories you consume that it's going to have that effect. If you totally eliminate, quote, carbs, for most people, that's going to put them in that negative energy balance, okay? So another way, obviously, eating smaller portions. If you take in less energy, right, you're going to be in that, more likely to be in that negative energy balance. You can skip meals. Fasting, intermittent fasting has been a big thing. And a lot of people love to talk about all these little microscopic reasons why intermittent fasting works. Well, a lot of that is not really founded in any really hard science yet. It's actually still just a lot of theories out there. The main reason fasting works is because you are skipping a meal. You're going to eat less. If you reduce the amount of time, your feeding window, the amount of hours in a day that you're allowed to eat, that's automatically going to put you in a negative energy balance more than likely, okay? That's the big reason why fasting works. You could exercise more. You could burn more energy, right? That's a good way to do it. You could be blessed with a very fast metabolic rate. And maybe we know people like this. I know I do, right? Those people that seem to be able to eat anything, they don't really exercise, but they're still really thin, right? I call those people jerks because they are. It's frustrating to people like us, right? We some of us, we just seem to gain weight very easily, right? Well, but here's the thing. You can increase your metabolic rate. Okay? You can actually increase that, and we're going to talk about how. You could wire your jaw shut, you know, you could get so crazy about things you could develop an eating disorder. Now, obviously, those last two, those are kind of silly, right? We don't want an eating disorder. You could get your jaw wired shut if you were in an accident. I don't recommend it doing as a way to reduce calories, but all of these things here will put you in a negative energy balance. Now, here's the thing: exercise seems to be kind of the easiest one, right? Just start doing some more things. That's the simplest way to start using more calories. Well, it's great, but you cannot out exercise your diet. Many of us have tried that. People still try that. I'm just going to pound more and more in the gym. I'm going to run more, all this stuff. And I never seem to get where I need to go. Well, it's not the best way, especially the older we get. We get over 40, 50. Things don't work like that as well anymore. So we got to discover better ways to do this. Because here's a question for you. Are calories really the only thing that matters? Well, all weight loss doesn't mean healthy, okay? I don't know if you guys remember this, but years ago, there was a professor from Kansas, and he did an experiment. He wanted to prove that you could lose weight. All you needed to do was reduce your calories. Didn't matter what you ate. So he did something called the Twinkie diet. Does anyone remember the Twinkie diet? Okay, so
No.
this guy, professor in Kansas, he lost 27 pounds, and I forget exactly how long a time frame it was. It wasn't really, really long. He ate nothing but Twinkies, I think Oreos, and he might have had a small salad every day. And he lost 27 pounds. Great. You know, well, energy factor is the most important factor in weight loss, like I said. But your body needs more than just calories, okay? As we said, calories are energy, but there's a whole lot of other things we need to have optimal health, okay? I'm talking about things like we need all the macronutrients. We need some carbohydrate, okay? That's why I never love to hear that I'm not going to eat any carbs. Well, your body needs carbs. For one thing, your brain needs carbs. That's the brain's preferred energy source is carbohydrates. We need healthy fat, and then we need protein. We need vitamins, right? Trace minerals, vitamins and minerals. We need these things. These are called the micronutrients. We need fiber. Our digestive system needs fiber. Fiber can also be great for our cardiovascular system. We need that. So I always encourage people, food quality is important, right? The Twinkie diet, yes, he lost weight. Do you think if he did that for long term, like years, he would be a healthy individual? He might be thin, but I would venture, and he didn't do it for that long. I would venture to guess all kinds of other health markers would start going wacko. For one thing, he would feel like crap because he's not going to get vitamins and minerals. Fiber is going to really be lacking. His guts are probably going to be messed up. So we got to think of having a good quality food, and all of those macronutrients need to be included. So, because the truth is, you are exactly what you eat. Every cell in your body is developed, is created from the food, the energy you bring in. So it does matter what we eat. It's not just calories, okay? So for weight loss to be healthy, right? If that's your goal, weight loss, we need to practice what I would call good nutrition, okay? What is good nutrition? Good nutrition properly controls energy balance, okay? Again, you could want to gain muscle. Well, good. We need to practice good nutrition. This works for the people that want to gain weight too, because good nutrition is going to provide nutrient density. I alluded to that. So that quality of food, the vitamins, minerals, fiber, all those things that we need, the variety of macronutrients. Good nutrition achieves a healthy body composition. Body composition, I'm just referring to the ratio of body fat to lean mass in your body. Good nutrition also helps you achieve performance goals. What are you looking to be able to do in life? Okay? Your nutrition should help you do that. Good nutrition is also honest and outcome based. So, what I mean by honest is if you're working by yourself on your nutrition, are you being honest with what you're actually doing, what you're actually putting in your body? If you're working with a coach, are you communicating honestly with them on what you're eating? Because that nutrition needs to be not only honest, it needs to be outcome based. So what I mean by that is you're making nutritional changes, okay? Then you're measuring the result, whatever that result is you're looking for. You're measuring that. You're making adjustments based on what the outcome of those measurements are, okay? That's what I mean by that. But by and far above all of that, good nutrition must be sustainable, okay? So now that we've got kind of a foundation of that, let's talk about like what all these diets do, these serial dieters, yo-yo dieters, whatever you want to call them. What are their biggest mistakes? What is the failings that cause us as a society to be in the situation we are now, right? The biggest mistakes, there's a couple of them. They ignore the thermic effect of feeding that I talked about earlier. Remember, that was referring to the amount of energy our bodies burn up to digest food. When you eat a food, it requires energy. That's what that is. A lot of people lose that, and it's a super important one. And then the second thing that they lose sight of, the mistake they make, is they lose muscle mass. That is a huge one with the yo-yo dieter. That is the person that loses weight, then gains it back and more. They've lost muscle mass. So how do we combat that? So let's dig in just a little deeper on these. We're not going to get too sciencey at all. And I'm not very good at math, so we're not going to get that far into math. But we are going to do a little bit of math here. So remember the thermic effect of food. So when you eat a carbohydrate, let's say you eat 100 calories of carbohydrates, 5 to 15% of that, so 5 to 15 calories of that 100 are going to be burned up just by chewing, by swallowing and digesting that carbohydrate. Fat is the same way. 5 to 15 calories of that 100 are consumed. Now look at that protein. Eating protein, 100 calories of protein, you are going to burn 20 to 30 of those calories just by eating that food. Okay? That is huge. That adds up over time. Protein is actually a secret weapon of yours. It's a 1-2 punch. You get that higher thermic effect that you're looking for, and it helps you what? Maintain lean mass or that muscle mass. Those two mistakes they make. Protein really helps with that, okay? So that's number one, that thermic effect of a feeding. Let's look at the second big mistake that happens with serial dieters. Remember metabolism? We talked about that, right? The basal metabolic rate, the amount of calories you burn while resting. Let's look at two individuals here. We have individual 1 and 2, cleverly named. Individual 1 is 135 pounds and has 43% body fat. Their basal metabolic rate is 1,124 calories, estimated, okay? That's how many calories they need just to sustain their life doing nothing. Look at individual number 2, still 135 pounds, but 30% body fat. That means they've got more muscle on them. Same weight, but more muscle, less fat. Their metabolic rate is 1,296 calories a day. That's 172 calorie difference. And when I ran these numbers, I'll confess, initially I was like, well, maybe that doesn't sound like too much. That's not too big a difference. But when you look at a little bit more math, it's going to become clear on how important that is. So I want to emphasize, remember metabolism. 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories. So if you eat excess of 3,500 calories over what you burn, you will gain a pound of fat. Well, let's take that 3,500 calories, divide it by that extra 172 calories individual number 2 is burning because they have a lower body fat. In 20 days, they have reduced a pound of body fat. Okay, so, or they can eat that many more calories and not gain any weight. Okay, that's by virtue of just having more muscle mass on their body. I always used to say when I went through my own weight loss transformation, body fat is just storage. Muscle is living, breathing tissue that increases your metabolism. The calories you consume doing nothing. That is huge. Muscle is your friend. So, in reality, to be healthy, to get those goals, we've really got to balance three areas of your life. And if you come to our gym, the Body Smith, you've heard me say this over and over: nutrition, recovery, and exercise. The three foundations. We need balance in those because the human body, it is a complex organization of so many intertwined systems that only by having balance in these three areas are you really going to have optimal health. So that's good nutrition as we defined it. That's adequate recovery, okay? And recovery, we're talking about stress reduction, sleep, and smart exercise. Doing these three things are going to allow you to look better, perform better, and feel your best. So, what do successful people do? And I'm talking successful. I'm always saying in long term success. Short term success, everyone's had it. But how do the people that do it forever? How do they do it? Well, they do it in a lot of ways. Okay. They pay attention to macronutrient ratios. Now, this does not mean necessarily that they are calculating what's my percentage. You can do that, of course. You can get down to the nitty gritty, to the math, figure out macronutrient ratios and track that. But even if they're not tracking that closely, they're paying attention. Am I getting enough protein? Am I making sure I have that protein every single meal and for a snack? Am I having some healthy carbohydrates? Are the fat sources I eat healthy? So they're doing that. They're probably more than likely following some sort of structured exercise program, routine. That is also huge. Remember, muscle is our friend, right? It helps our metabolism be higher. They may even pay attention to things like timing their macronutrients. When am I going to eat my starchy carbs? When am I going to eat my fat or my protein? Okay. They practice good sleep practices. They have maybe a sleep ritual even, or they really work at reducing stress in their life. Okay, successful people also, they're not afraid of spontaneous physical activity. What are we doing? I don't know. Let's go for a hike. Great. Let's go for a walk. Great. Successful people do that. They look for opportunities. Or they even do, this is one of my favorites. I've talked about this for years and I love this. They do what's called non-exercise activity. The T actually stands for thermogenesis. It's a very fancy way of saying extra activity through the day. And I always define this as if I'm going to a park, if I'm going somewhere, going to a movie, I'm going to park as far away as I can usually. I'm going to look for that opportunity to walk an extra 200 yards. I'm going to look for the opportunity to take the steps instead of the elevator. This also may not seem like a lot, but you're making compound interest. These little bits of activity you're adding over a week, over a year. If you've ever tracked your steps, you know how that adds up. Successful people may even do something like count calories, so they know they're in that negative energy balance if they want to lose weight. Now, some of these obviously are very advanced strategies. Even counting calories is kind of a guess, really. Food labels, in reality, are not very accurate with calorie counts in food. Information kind of varies, but calories in food can be underestimated by 10 to 20% on a food label, right? So some of these are very advanced strategies. Again, I've seen people be very good by doing all of these things, by getting into the nitty-gritty. I've also seen people be very successful by but keeping those concepts we talked about top of mind, okay? But all these strategies, none of them mean a hill of beans unless you're doing the most important thing of successful people, which is just being consistent, okay? Consistency is everything. We started off by saying, earlier on, I said, diet is a 4-letter word, right? I didn't like that because you go on a diet, you go off a diet. Well, that's not consistency. You're only being consistent and being inconsistent, jumping on the next train. That is a recipe for failure. Successful people find the habits that get them in line with good nutrition, that work on those 3 foundations that they can consistently do. Okay? That is number 1. Remember that. Find out what you can do every day or 80% of the days. You hear the 80-20 rule bantied around in fitness. You can do the things that lead you to good nutrition, that balance the foundations 80% of the time. You're going to be winning. Okay? So we got to be consistent. So let's just briefly, in our last few minutes here, let's talk about what can we do? Like what can we put together here to get us at least started in the right path? Well, the first thing, nutrition. I started by saying it's the most important of all of this. Well, if you want to be basic with this, stick with minimally processed foods, okay? Whole foods. Or you've heard people talk about shop the perimeter of the grocery store, right? Vegetables, meat, eggs, that kind of thing. All the processed stuff's on the inside of the grocery store. You may have heard that. I need you to watch the alcohol. Now, you don't need to eliminate every bit, right? You don't need to eliminate. We don't want things to be so restrictive that they're no fun, right? I don't know about you. I'm not going to totally give up alcohol. I'm not a big drinker, but sometimes I want a nice IPA, okay? I'm not going to give up pizza sometimes, all right? Even though I did the other night. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have pizza sometimes, okay? A big one, another big one you can do is, remember how I said good nutrition is honest and outcome based? Write down what you eat. Try that. Even if it's just for yourself, a certain measure of accountability, even if you're working on your own, if you wrote down everything that went past your mouth, if you bite it, you write it, okay? If you drink it, try that for 5 days. Write everything down. Breakfast, I had this. Lunch, I had this snack. Write it down. Then give it a look. Compare it to what we talked about good nutrition to be. How close is it, okay? Be honest with yourself. If you're working with a coach, a nutrition coach, and be honest with them, okay? That is the best way to get to success. You got to be honest with everyone, yourself included, okay? Now, exercise we know is important. Well, the basic of it, do some strength training. As I said earlier, muscle is our best friend. It is our body's best friend. So strength training is the way to do it. It doesn't have to be every day or anything like that. 2 to 3 days a week is usually enough to keep people with enough lean mass, okay? Take the opportunity to practice that need. Walking further, taking, not carrying 40 bags of groceries in from the car so you don't have to take 2 trips. Make a couple trips, take a couple steps. If you can walk, use those legs because a lot of people don't, take the stairs, all that, okay? Get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. It's amazing how hard sleep is for people, right? In this day and age, there's a lot of strategies out there, from having a sleep ritual to white noise to turning off screens a few hours before bedtime. There's a lot of strategies using apps like Calm to meditate before bed. There's breathing exercises before bed. I used to do those when I had trouble sleeping. Sleep is so important. It's so important that exercise in the absence of good sleep really diminished in its effectiveness, right? You've heard me say this maybe before, you don't make progress exercising. So when you're in the gym working out, you're not getting better. You're actually destroying your body. But while you recover, while you rest, while you sleep especially, your body rebuilds stronger. So sleep is so important, okay? And when you if you're going to start making these changes, start slowly if you're new, right? I know it sounds great. You've gotten some good information and you want to just jump right in and do everything. Well, that sounds great and it can be great, but very few people succeed with making all these changes at once. Okay. Big mistake people make is what? They go too hard, too fast, too soon. That can be burnout. Remember, we want sustainability, consistency over days, weeks, months, and ideally years. Okay. If you need guidance, then you can work with a professional coach. Okay. I mean, that's what we do. Okay. So we're always here for you as well. So as I get kind of ready to wrap up the lecture portion of this, I'm going to give you some resources, some more resources. So how can we learn a little bit more? I created what I call the downloadable sustainable nutrition cheat sheet. And I think I have everyone here that's on the call registered. So I have your information. What I'll do is I'll send you a link to a document on a Google Drive that you can print out that has a nice little checklist of things you can do. But I'm also going to do I'm going to do a free seminar, an in-person seminar on January 25th, 10 in the morning up here at the gym. Address is there if you don't know it. And I'm going to go in a little bit deeper from some of these topics because I did a survey earlier in the year on what people wanted to learn more about. And we had most of the questions came back or interests were in a few more of the more advanced strategies, such as macronutrient timing, eating for your body type, some of that stuff, what to eat when I work out. So I'm going to cover a little bit more of the nitty gritty of that on that seminar on the 25th. So please attend that. If you have any questions, you know how to get to me. And I'm hoping that will be enlightening. So that's it. That's all I have for you today on this. Does anyone have any questions that you want to ask me now? Marsha's like, that was all great.
So I'm just going to say this because Marsha, I see Marsha's face, and we talked about 1 gram per protein, 1 gram per body weight. Is that what we should be doing?
And so your question is, if I'm right, Jim, is the goal of 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein a good goal to shoot for?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. This is a good question. It comes up a lot. People are always like, well, how much protein do I need? And if you look at like the RDA, the recommended daily allowances, the number is actually much lower than that. It's 0.36 grams per pound of body weight. That's what we need according to what? The U.S. government, right? The governmental organization says 0.36 grams per pound of body weight. Now, that sounds fine, but that is meant to prevent deficiency, to prevent disease. That's what those numbers are for. So if you want to like look great, feel great, and perform great, protein recommendations actually go up much higher. Okay. So research, if you're going to get into counting grams of protein, if you're going to be a numbers person, the 1 gram is actually a pretty darn good number to shoot for. So that is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Now, athletes, people that are super like athletic, they can go up as much as to 2 grams per pound of body weight. So that's quite a bit difference. But remember, some recommendations are to prevent a deficiency in disease. These recommendations we're talking about to be lean, to maintain mass, to perform better. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. That's a great question, Jim. Great question. Now, if you're not a calorie counter, right? If you don't want to count calories and macros, all that, there's other systems, right? The whole hand system, right? If you're a female,
yeah,
a serving of protein's about the size of your hand. Have 3, if not 4 of those a day. It's going to do pretty darn good. If you're a guy, a man, you want double that. 2 palm servings 3 to 4 times a day. Okay? Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to do this. It's what you can do consistency. If you're a numbers person, great. If you're not, you don't have to follow that. There's other ways. Good question.
Perfect.
Excellent. Does anyone else have anything? Great. Well, guys, I've enjoyed this. I like putting this together. I hope that if you have questions about anything we've talked about here, you have my information. Get back to me. I'm going to send you the link to that cheat sheet. And then the seminar on the 25th of this month, 10 a.m., I'll go a little bit deeper. I'll even give you some more resources. I think I'm digging up some stuff now. So, and if there's anything you want to learn more about in that seminar, you want to get into the nitty gritty more or just anything, send it to me and I'll be glad to cover that. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. Okay.
Thanks, Brad.
Bye.
Yeah. I'll see you all soon in the gym. Okay.
Sounds
All
good.
right.
You got it. Bye, guys.